Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Plan With Me podcast where we actually have someone to chat with.
Yay!
This is my friend Kamila, but I'll let her introduce herself and tell us what she does.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. My name is Kamila. I am the founder of Heart Behind Hustle, and I primarily help entrepreneurs, coaches, course creators, digital product people to grow and scale their businesses online, specifically focusing on sales, marketing, and ads.
Great. So, I invited Kamila here today because she is an expert at paid ads. So, I thought we would talk about what's going on in paid ads because I don't think I've run one in, I don't know, like 5 years. And even then, that was only because Camila helped me. And then when she walked away, I think I just canceled it. So um, let's just talk about do you still think, I guess in general, paid ads are a good option for someone just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely still like to use ads. I think ads are, hold on one second. There we go. My microphone, I see disconnected. There we go. Um, I definitely still am a big fan of using ads. I think the way I think about it personally, like I like to use ads to grow my audience and get exposure to people
Mhm.
instead of using how most people use social media. They use social media to like get in front of new people, to try to go viral, try to, I don't know, have their content pull people in. But I think there's so much competition with that. I'd rather just pay for it. And that has worked for me for many years. It continues to work and it continues to work for my clients. And I think as long as you're strategic about how much you're willing to spend and what you're looking to get out of it, it's definitely a good option. So,
All right. And so when someone comes to you and they're brand new and they're just totally clueless about Facebook ads, what do you start with like business strategy first, or do you just go with what they have and then try to make an ad out of it?
yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the most important thing if someone's newer, I would ask like, are they new to their business or are they new to ads? Because those are two different things. Wh- Do you want to kind of focus on
I
one
guess,
or the other?
yeah, let's just pretend because sometimes what people say is, hey, I'd really love to run Facebook ads. And you're like, on what? They're like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I definitely believe for ads to be effective, like anyone can run ads, but not everyone's going to get effective, profitable ads. So to me, the most important thing is like, what's the strategy? Why are we running ads? It's because ads themselves are not a strategy. Ads are an amplifier of what's already working or not working. So if you're like, I don't know. I just want to like grow my Instagram and like get more followers. It's like cool. And if you grow your followers, then what? Because I think a lot of times people think, well, if I just grow my audience, magically I'm going to get sales. And that's not the case. You need to have a very clear sales process to know what you're doing with these followers. So the first step is always what's the point? Why are we doing this? What's your biggest strategy? If you want to actually not, throw money down the drain, that is. So identifying that. And then when it comes to the offer, I find that a lot of people who have been posting on social media, and that's been like their primary way of just marketing, they really have to learn how to communicate in a way that's different when using ads, because what has worked for people for their existing audience is not necessarily going to work with people who have no idea who you are. The people that are like cold audiences, they're especially in more saturated niches like business, health, fitness, love, like dating, pretty much most niches, I would say at this point. There's a lot of competition, right? So people are more likely to be hesitant, a little bit more resistant to seeing ads from other people. And if you're just using the same language you do with people who already love you, um, it's probably not going to work the same. So you have to be very clear on like, what is the outcome? What's the value for you, person who doesn't know me? Why should you sign up for this thing, whether it's free or a paid offer? How is it different? Because that person is going to be asking themselves, how is this thing I'm seeing on my ad different from the other 10 ads I just saw before this? Because they're probably served a lot of ads. So there is a lot of strategic thinking that needs to be put in place instead of just like, I want to run ads. So let me just start running ads and see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about getting a copywriter for their website and their sales page. Would you advise getting a copywriter for your ads?
Yeah, so I think it also depends on what you're running the ads to. I think the most valuable type of copywriter would be a copywriter that's familiar with video copy and writing hooks specifically, because the types of ads that are working really well now are ads that are like they're not the typical ads that we've seen in the past where it's just like good copy on a sales page. It's really about finding the right angles to pull people in towards your sales page. And sometimes it's as easy as like, I have this offer, here you go, buy it. But most of the time, you're going to have to find other ways that are kind of more in the peripheral that bring people into that page. So whatever the copywriter is, I think it's always a good idea to work with someone who knows how to write copy or knows how to think in this way. But the number one skill needs to be, are they familiar with what videos work, how short form videos work, how you capture attention with video specifically. And then I would say written copy is probably secondary after that.
Okay. And so when you think about the different formats your ad could be, do you recommend people to start out with a static image or a video or a combination or something else?
Yeah, so that's another good question. I typically have my clients starting out with video ads typically. Video is kind of dominating the space, at least with Instagram. So majority of the ads that we run are Instagram and Facebook. Instagram primarily.
Mhm.
So within Instagram, obviously we have Reels. That's like the main thing. We do have some carousels and images kind of popping back in. But even though images are easier to create, I do find that if you're running your ads on Reels and running your ads on Instagram stories, they tend to get better performance. So those are usually video oriented first. And the best way to do that is to start posting Reels and seeing what is actually getting engagement, and then you can literally use those same reels as ads in that type of format. So that's the most important thing. It has to be a vertical type of video that you would post on reels or you would post as a story. And yeah, test a bunch of them out, and then any of them that kind of perform, use them as ads. And then you can also add image ads as well, but I usually don't, it's not my number one priority when it comes to recommending like what ad formats to focus on.
Okay. And then, so when we talk about where they're going to convert people, so some people still do just vanity ads, right? Just, I want more subscribers or followers, right? And do you recommend, so someone beginning that has nothing, is that okay? Or should they just like save their money and not bother?
I personally say don't bother. I think it's a waste of money, because like I said, like most people think that when they run ads to grow their followers or grow their likes, they think that it's going to result in more sales just magically, and that doesn't
Mhm.
happen. So most of the people that think that probably don't actually have a behind like actual strategy behind the scenes that could potentially make that work. And 95% of the people that think about running these engagement ads or like ads, I don't think should. I think it's a better investment of time and money to think about what's the bigger strategy, and then run ads to something that's going to more closely contribute to that. My preference is to always run ads to grow your email list. I think the email list is like the number one thing. So whether it's like simple freebies or something, or like you're doing a launch or you're doing a webinar, I think there's always a lot more value with that, because at least your offer can be so much more closely tied to that, and it's easier to recoup the investment or even be profitable with those ads.
Okay. So people should have at least a lead magnet, right?
Yeah, I would say definitely at least a minimum.
And
Yeah.
does it really matter? Like, let's say you have the world's crappiest lead magnet. You just threw it together in Canva. You don't even care because you're just like, oh my gosh, the ads person asked me what I have. I have nothing. Let me just make something. Does it really matter the quality of the lead magnet on whether or not people retain people on the email list? Or are they just saying yes to so many things they don't even know what they signed up for?
Yeah, no, I think the most important thing is not necessarily the quality of the design of your lead magnet. It's more about the content and the context of the lead magnet. So if you're creating like a really simple checklist on like how to grow an email list, they probably have seen that a billion times before. So yeah, someone might sign up. They're probably going to unsubscribe because you're not telling them anything like revolutionary. So there's really no reason for them to sign up. It doesn't matter whether it was like designed by a graphic designer or it was like in a Google Doc, they're probably not going to stick around. But if you're telling them like a special strategy that no one's talking about, when it comes to building an email list. And then it's like, ooh, what is it? And then you also hook them into like, I'm going to be sharing with you more things in the email list. Again, that's the strategic aspect. They're probably going to stick around. So I think it's definitely less design, more just the content.
Okay. And so growing that email list too, is it still effective to get people to go into a free webinar right away?
I still have my clients going into free webinars. I think it still works really well. I think the how you structure your webinar is very important. So most people, the way most people do their webinars doesn't work because they're just like, it's a free training and like also a pitch, but it's really meant to be a very strategically, psychologically driven structure of the training. It can't just be a full-on hardcore sales pitch because people are over that. They've seen it a billion times before. So you do have to give value, but the way you do it has to be, yeah, just you just have to think through it. But um, I still run ads directly to webinars. I have my clients still run ads directly to webinars. And as long as your offer is really good and as long as the price point makes sense to be profitable, it's I still see people being profitable with that. So
And
I
so
like
this is really nitpicky, but like once you're in the webinar, I think my biggest pet peeve is when I see I can't fast forward, I can't jump
it.
ahead, right? Is that still a strategy that's working?
Yeah, it is. It's still a strategy for most things. And the reason being is because people need to go through all the like the whole flow to have the emotional reaction they need to be primed to purchase. Otherwise, they're just going to be watching it logically and people don't buy logically. They buy emotionally. So by allowing them to skip forward, you're giving them information, but it's not necessarily going to be enough for them to buy. But you do also have to consider who your audience, like who is your audience, who is your ideal client. If you're talking to people who are like CEOs or like busy entrepreneurs and they've been through a lot of webinars, then not giving them the skipping forward feature might actually really turn them off because they know what you're doing. But if I'm talking to like, I don't know, if I'm in the health niche or I'm talking to people who aren't bombarded with webinar invitations and they haven't gone through that many, then it still works really well. But the way that we get around that with my clients, we have people go into a webinar where they can't skip forward, but then afterwards we send them a replay where they can skip forward. So if they're like, forget this, then they
Yeah.
see it, it's on its own page and they can go through and decide where they want to start watching.
Yeah, that's me. Just out of
Yeah, there you go. I
All
feel
right.
you. I'm honestly the same. But I will watch a webinar without the skip forward thing if it's something I really want to know. But if it's something that I see a lot of options and I'll be like, whatever. But if it's like I've never heard anyone talk about this, I'm like super curious, I'll probably sit through and like put it on 2x speed and just like let's get through it.
I mean, would you stay if they were like, I'm going to give you this free, I don't know, whatever at the 43-minute mark? If you
Yeah.
stay till the end,
Yeah,
we'll,
I would if it's something I want, yes. If it's something that's like, then obviously no.
all right. Okay. So let's just talk about different platforms like Facebook, Instagram. Like, if you had a client come to you for 2024, what are you advising them to get on and really focus on?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Instagram. I think Instagram is like my favorite platform. A lot of my clients are still very successful with Facebook. I don't use Facebook for business as much as I used to. I still run ads on Facebook, but I don't post on Facebook as
Mhm.
frequently. So I think it also depends on the niche. Like, if you're talking to busy professionals with very specific career paths, you're probably going to want to be on LinkedIn and you're going to want to connect with people there. I don't recommend running ads on LinkedIn because they're super expensive, but marketing wise, that's probably a better option. In terms of ads specifically, I would say that, Instagram, Facebook, that all works. Like a lot of people are really effective with YouTube ads. I think YouTube ads are more complicated to set up and they're a little harder to get to work. So I don't do them very often. TikTok ads are a thing as well. The tricky thing with TikTok is that depending on what you're selling, it can also be a little bit harder to break even or be profitable with those ads because of the behavior people have on TikTok, which is very like, just give me the like dopamine quickie type of experience. And they're not usually willing to like go deeper. So, yeah, it really depends on the person. It depends on what they also like. Cause, if I tell them to go on Instagram, but they hate Instagram with a passion, they're probably not going to be on Instagram sustainably or consistently. So, you know what I mean?
Right. So
Yeah.
I guess if they chose, let's say, Instagram, if they don't have a very big presence on there, because maybe they're, I don't know, like a YouTuber or something, would it make more sense for them to just learn how to do the YouTube ads instead of
Yeah.
wasting a lot of time on Instagram?
Yeah, so if they're already on YouTube and they're doing that really effectively, I would say it might make sense to do YouTube ads, but it also depends on, again, it's kind of like what's the like what's the process, why are we running the ads, right? Because if they're just like, I just want more people coming into my YouTube channel, then stay on YouTube. If they also want, if they're like, okay, I'm doing what I can on YouTube and I'm also wanting to like grow my email list, Instagram ads are probably going to be cheaper to just grow an email list than YouTube ads, because YouTube ads are just more involved. So I still, they don't necessarily have to create a new Instagram account, but they can run ads on Instagram to monetize and build that email list and then move people into the YouTube channel from there.
Okay. And so if people are just starting out, what's a typical budget you recommend?
Also depends on what they're running the ads to, but I typically say between like $30 to $50 a day
Mhm.
is usually a pretty good place to start. I know some people say like you can go even lower. Again, this is kind of where it depends on the bigger strategy, but if it's lower, what you wanna basically think about is, like, the lower your budget, the less you're gonna be able to test and see if your ads are working, so it's gonna take longer for you to know if your ads are working, and your ad also needs to get a certain amount of conversion in a week for Facebook or Meta to be able to optimize your ads to actually be effective. So if you're getting less than, like, 100 conversions in a week, Facebook is just gonna be like, "I don't really know who this is for," so you're not gonna get the optimal cost per lead if you're running ads to gain leads, so there's, like,
Okay.
that.
Well, I know there are a lot of people who run ads for other people say, well, I need to experiment, right? Like I need to see what works and what doesn't work. Like, how long is that process? And how, like, before you even see an ROI, like, how much is it, like 1,000, 5,000 before you can really like be like, I know what to do for your audience?
Yeah, I would say I try not to spend like 5,000 is kind of a lot to like just see what happens. I definitely try to make decisions as quickly as possible. If you are like have no idea, I would always run ads directly to like grow the email list. I would not run ads to anything that's paid up front just to see like do people even care even if it's free, like really identifying what the messaging is. I think you should be able to figure that out within a first few $100s that you spend, and you can look based on like what are the click throughs, are people like interested, how much are you paying for 1,000 impressions, how much are you paying per lead, and I mean honestly within $100 you can typically tell like is the ad itself working. But if you're wanting to test multiple ads, you might need to spend a few hundred, like $100 per ad, I would say, to kind of see, and then you can take it further. But then again, with an ROI, it really, again, it kind of depends on what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on after they get on that email list.
Okay. And so I guess for people like me who've never run ads, terrified of ads, would you recommend them actually learning how to do ads themselves or just being safe and outsourcing it?
I actually don't recommend outsourcing ads unless you have the budget to do so, because it's a lot harder to break even if you're spending like $1,500 a month on ad management. Plus, you need to spend another 2,000. Now you have to break even. You have to make way more from the ad. So it just puts a lot more pressure. And I think that ads are actually not that complicated when you actually like see how they're done. Unless you're spending like $1,000 a day, you're not gonna have to be testing a ton of different ad creatives. Like, you're not gonna have to be even it like, as soon as you have an ad that's working, you don't really have to be in there every day. It's just working until it's not. So, I've had ads that worked for a year and a half, and I didn't have to do anything with the ad. So, it'd be such a waste of money for me, like, if I didn't know what I was doing, to pay someone 1,300 or 1,500 or $2,000 just to, like, "Oh, it's still working? Okay, cool. I guess we can check other things," but, like, we don't actually have to check other things. I'm just doing it to make you feel like I'm working. So, I feel like it doesn't have to be that complicated, especially if your goal is just to grow an email list. There's very simple ads you can do that you just have to like decide to be like okay with it. Let's just give me a week to kind of figure it out. And you could always like, there's always like coaching programs and stuff like that you can join, or courses you can join that can help you refine and understand how to do it. But I think that's going to be a better use of money, because at least you'll then know how to do it ongoing for yourself. Even if you spent $1,500 once on like learning how to do it with support or someone, that's going to be a better investment than continually paying $1,500 for an ad manager that knows what they're doing, but it's like an ongoing expense.
Okay. And so, what would you advise to someone before they even embark on Facebook ads to have set up? Like, should they have a website? Should they have a mailing list? Should they have like basics, right? Like, just pretend you're brand new.
Yeah, you definitely need to have an email list. You definitely need to have some kind of a sales funnel in place, like some kind of an email sequence to welcome people in and then have something to sell ideally. Um, you actually don't need a website. I don't think you actually even need pages because there's different certain type of ads you can run called lead generation ads or lead form ads, and they actually skip over you needing a landing page builder even. So honestly, just you need a page to run ads from, like you do need a Facebook business page. You don't actually need an Instagram account to run ads on Instagram because you can run it from the Facebook page. And you need to send your leads somewhere on an email list and then, know what you're doing with them afterwards, and that's pretty much it. And consistent, like, don't just run ads, get people into your email list, and then you never speak to them again. That's going to be a waste of time. So, and money. So just make sure that you know how you're going to continue nurturing them, communicating with them, and what you're going to be selling to them afterwards.
Okay. All right. And so, when you have someone who has a really complex funnel where the end point is, say, like a $2,000 product, do you run ads still only to the lead magnet for the mailing list, or do you start running ads further along in the funnel?
You could, I would say most of the time I recommend focusing on let's get people into the lead magnet and let's get people into the launch. So typically if you're selling a $2,000 product, you're going to do a launch of some kind. So I would run ads to that launch directly as well. Then if you wanted to run ads to the offer itself, I would only do retargeting ads. And most of the time, I don't think that even the retargeting ads are really that important. Um, in some cases it's good, in some cases it's not really. Like, yeah, I probably have a different opinion than a lot of people. I think it's not really necessary if you're kind of newer. And yeah, just focus. I mean, that's what works for me and my clients. You really don't have to do like a gazillion different ads to make it work.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the retargeting ads, how do you feel about the ads? Like, I notice sometimes when I leave something in the cart but I didn't purchase, it'll be like, "Hey, you left this," and it's an ad. I'm like, how did they know? I don't know how they know.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a lot harder to run ads like this because it comes down to like the pixels and it comes down to the conversion API. And a lot of times a lot of times I've gotten ads that were actually incorrect where they were like, it looks like you were interested in this. I'm like, no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. Just because I maybe like watched part of the video or something. So this is why I kind of hesitate running ads like that because they're just less precise nowadays. You could do retargeting ads that are a little bit more covert, where you're not like, you left this in the cart, like please buy the thing. Um, I would say it's better to just like, let me just show a different type of ad that's still selling the thing, but it's not mentioning that you did or did not leave something in the cart, just in case the data is incorrect. So the people that you like, if you're ever seeing ads like that, it's possible that they just have something that most of us don't have access to in terms of like some features and functionalities,
Yeah.
or they just got lucky and they were actually correct.
Okay. I mean, how important are pixels and cookies going to be in 2024? I think cookies are going away, right?
So with ads specifically, what's more important is the conversion API functionality. So pixels are kind of like they still work kind of, but they don't work that well anymore because of mainly because of Apple and the privacy settings that have come out with like iOS. I think it was like 13 or 14 or whichever it was, like a while ago. So the most important to track data is conversion API, which not every single platform will allow you to do. Typically, landing page builders will, typically checkout forms will. Regular website rarely will allow you to do that. So already you're kind of like on the losing end if
Mm.
you're only relying on that. This is why using things like lead form ads is really great because lead forms, what it does, a lead form basically you build out a little form that pops up in Facebook or in Instagram. And because that behavior is happening inside of Facebook or Instagram, you still get to retarget people, whether they opted in, whether they didn't opt in. Like you have actually perfect data on that because it's happening on Facebook. But as soon as you send people to a different page, that's kind of where all, things can go haywire basically. So that's more important, I would say. Running videos is really important, so you can retarget people who watch a certain part of your video or certain duration of your video. That I think is really good and important. So it's kind of like thinking of other ways of retargeting people outside of just using pixels.
Okay. Oh, and then, so what should people avoid? I don't know if you remember when we first met, I was running ads for my romance books, which were a little
Yeah.
spicy. And so I got banned.
Yeah.
So, aside from that, what are things that people are doing these days that are getting their accounts banned or deactivated?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just being aware of what their rules are, and they do change them every so often, but usually um they've changed them a few years ago where it makes it actually much harder, but they don't want anyone to feel called out in the ads. They sometimes your ads could get shut down if you're just like, this is for women. Like even if you say it's for women, they might not allow your ad to run. If you say this is for Christian women, definitely not going to fly. If you're saying like this is for overweight women, if this is for anxious women, like a lot of times that because it might make people feel like, how did you know this? Like why how do you know that this is me? And they might get offended or whatever. So that it's just harder to target effectively because of that. So you have to like think of ways to get around it and say it in an indirect way. So maybe like using more visuals. Like if you're running ads to like a sex book, basically, like you definitely can't say that's what it is, right? So you might have to say like maybe you have an image of like an eggplant and you're like, that's what's happening here. She really wanted the eggplant. Like it has to be super indirect and not everyone's gonna get it, but you just have to get a lot more creative with like getting around some of these things. Um, no before and after pictures, like with health and fitness, you can't show two pictures side by side to show before and after because it's just like misleading for a lot of people. Most people are not going to get to the after. Anything that shows like a unrealistic outcomes, unrealistic standards that people might expect from signing up or buying the thing, that's not going to be approved a lot of times. So you just have to kind of like it's unfortunate because again, it makes the ads like not as effective, but they can still be effective. You just have to be very honest and transparent and not over promising with your ads. And also making sure you're not running ads in the prohibited categories as well.
Okay. So no wild claims of do
Yeah.
this and it'll make you X number of
Yeah.
dollars.
Like
All
a
right.
1000%. Yeah, you can't do that.
Is anybody actually policing that, or is it more just people are reporting when they see that your
People
ad?
are reporting it, but they also have bots that do it automatically. They can tell what is written. Um, a way to get around that sometimes is like saying it verbally in your video instead of writing it down.
Mhm.
Sometimes you could potentially get around that, but yeah, I mean, their AI is getting better and better, so they can typically tell from that.
And how many people are really turning sound on ads?
That's a good question. I don't actually know how many people are turning on sound, but anytime I run ads with video, I always make sure that if I'm saying something, that the captions are also on. So you can, if you're running, like you're setting up your ad on like Reels or whatever, you always want to add that captions sticker on there. So that way, because I don't typically look at stories and stuff like that with the sound.
Mhm.
So, but if the captions are there, I know what's being said still, and maybe then I'll turn on the sound. So that's like the number one thing, very, very important to do.
And then are you trying to get like the most important hooky kind of words in the first 4 seconds, 3 seconds before you think someone's going to click off?
Yeah, as quickly as possible. Yeah,
Okay.
like immediately. Hmm.
All right. Okay. Well, I think, oh, there was a question too from someone in the group. I had mixed results with ads in the past. Any tips on using Facebook, on using ads for new groups or pages without any members?
Yeah. So I personally have not done any ads for groups. I know that that's like a new feature that has come out for some accounts. I don't have a Facebook group and my clients don't have a Facebook group. So I haven't had any experience with doing that. So I can't really necessarily speak to that. But you can run ads to a new business page or Facebook page or Instagram account, no problem. Like there's really nothing extra you have to do. If you're going to be running ads from a new Instagram account, the only thing I would say is if you also So like you run ads to whatever, if you also want people to follow you or to trust you a little bit more because they probably will check out the page to see if it's real, just
Mhm.
add some content in there, like anything that will make you look good, like testimonials or your face if you're, not usually your face. If not, then obviously don't do that. But just kind of fill it out so it doesn't look like no, like it's just a page that's totally a blank, then people will probably not opt in or they'll just think that you're a spammer or a scammer or something like that. So Instagram have at least 6 posts or like 9 posts on there, and then you can run ads, no problem. Even if there's 0 followers, you'll get the followers from ads.
I think it's a new thing. You don't even have to have it. Like I saw an Instagram ad the other day, and I always
Yeah,
click the
you
thing,
don't
and
have
there was
to.
no profile. And I was like,
Yep, you don't have to. I think that's always been the case because the ads will actually run from the Facebook business page. The Facebook business page is the requirement. Instagram account is not required to run ads on Instagram. But when you're running ads on Instagram, it will ask you, do you want to connect it to your Instagram profile or do you want to connect it to that Facebook page that you're already having to connect it to? And then sometimes people will choose one or the other.
okay, all right,
Mhm.
well,
Cool.
great. All right. Well, anything else that I forgot to ask, or anything else you want to make sure people knew?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Good job, everyone.
How can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me by going to heartbehindhustle.com, or you can find me on Instagram at heartbehindhustle.
All right. And if they wanted to work with you on ads, do you still do ads for new people?
I do still do some ad management for clients on a referral basis. So if you're interested in me running your ads, just reach out to me personally and let me know, and we can talk about that.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. And I'll leave her contact information in the comments